Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our event. More and more, the cloud is becoming an important tool for businesses of all stripes. And today we're going to talk about some misconceptions that people have about the cloud. We're also going to talk about your data and how to keep it safe. And since October is, in fact, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, what we're going to talk about is particularly relevant. Let me also mention that we will have time for your questions at the end of this presentation. But if there's something you'd like to ask sooner, please feel free to post your question in the chat box. A couple of our staff members are watching and will alert me if there's a question, and I'll be happy to answer your question then. So let's begin. Today, we're going to talk about a few items. First, and this may seem obvious, but why we do backups in the first place. The difference between cloud storage and cloud backup, they are quite different, but I think that a lot of people have them a little bit confused. And finally, why you need to worry about your data in the cloud. In the process, you're going to learn how you can protect your data in the cloud, what we can do to help you, and of course, answers to your questions. Now, before we move into the meat of today's presentation, I want to identify something that we talk about in every single staff meeting, and that is our single highest responsibility to our customers. And if you asked any of our staff members this question, this is exactly the answer they would give you. And specifically, it is the protection of your data. And the reason for that, very simply, is that if your business critical information is not safe, nothing else really matters. Now, I'm also going to do something a little bit weird, something that you've probably not heard on another webinar. And that is, I'm going to tell you exactly what we're going to offer right now. If you're interested, you can take advantage of it now or later. But this way we'll get it out of the way, and then we can dive right into today's topic. We're going to be talking a lot about what you need to do to keep your data safe in the cloud. And during that discussion, we're going to present some powerful tools for cloud backup and security that will do exactly that. And at the end of the session, I'm going to explain how you can take advantage of those tools and get a 20% discount in the process. So please hang on, and I'll explain how you can take us up on this great offer. And before we begin, because I know there are some people on here who haven't met me before, let me start by telling you a bit about me. I was one of those dweeby kids, you know, the ones who always wanted to know how things work. They were the guys who ended up being the audio-video monitor back in high school, the ones who were always fixing the projector when it broke. Well, eventually, I was trained as a software engineer at U of T in York. And while I was still in my final year at York, I started my first business. And by the time I was 30, my partners and I were running a software company with 25 employees. By the time I was 40, we had grown to 80 employees with offices in Toronto, Montreal, New York, and Los Angeles. I sold that business back in 1995 and founded Connectability to concentrate on IT infrastructure. Because at the time, I saw that desktop computers and network computing were going to be the foundation of all future IT. Now, over the past 41 years, I've seen a lot of changes in the IT landscape. But the biggest and most significant change that I've seen is the exponential growth of cyber threats. As our businesses become more and more dependent on technology, and particularly on cloud services, we also become more vulnerable to negligence and cyber criminals. And that's why we've been presenting these webinars, to help you keep your business data safe and your business running smoothly. Okay, so let's get started. And I want to start by asking a question that may seem obvious. Why do we do backup? But I think it's worth asking again, because sometimes I think we forget about the risks that we face. Risks like accidental deletion, Now, we, as an IT support company, frequently get calls from customers who accidentally deleted 3 files when they only meant to delete 1. Or sometimes they clicked on the wrong file and then pressed delete. Now, if you realize this right away, it's usually no problem to get the missing file or files back. But what if you don't realize you did that for a couple of months? Here's another risk. And this is one that we've all done. You go to write a letter or create a spreadsheet, and you realize, hey, this is very similar to the letter I just wrote to Kathy. I'll take that one and just change the names and a little bit of other information. And then, instead of clicking on Save As, you just click on Save. Uh-oh. Now you no longer have the original. And once again, if you realize it soon enough, you can often get the original file back. But if you don't figure it out for a couple of months, you're out of luck. And unfortunately, we've seen this one a few times too. An employee leaves your company on bad terms and then deletes critical information from his or her computer. The problem is this: if they deleted their entire mailbox or all their documents, you'd probably figure that out pretty quickly, and you'd likely be able to get that information back. But what if they just strategically deleted a few documents here and there, a few emails here and there? Documents or emails that contain critical information or potentially even evidence of malfeasance. And what if it took months before you realized what they'd done? Well, once again, you're out of luck. And we all recognize this guy. We've seen his picture before. This is the guy who makes it his life's mission, or sometimes her life's mission, to mess you up. They want to steal your information, break your network, and hold you for ransom. How do they do that? Well, we know the answer to that one too. It's called malware, and it encompasses a wide range of malicious software, all created by talented but warped software engineers who see nothing wrong with carrying out anonymous criminal acts. And then there are situations where you're not dealing with a risk per se, but rather specific requirements related to your area of business. For example, financial institutions, law firms, and others are subject to either professional or statutory requirements to keep and protect historical data. They may, for example, be required to keep every email, even messages sent in error, and even messages that are intentionally deleted. Now, I mentioned the risk to your data from hackers and the malware that they have created. So I'd like to introduce you to a former hacker who today is one of the world's leading security consultants. Kevin Mitnick is sometimes called the world's most famous hacker, best known for his high-profile 1995 arrest and 5 years in prison for various computer and communications-related crimes. And had this occurred today, he would have spent 20 years in prison. So here's some wisdom from Kevin about your data in the cloud. And please bear with me for just 1 second while I set that up for you to watch.
Hi, I'm Kevin Mitnick, formerly a black hat hacker and the most wanted hacker in the world. Today I'm a white hat hacker, so I help organizations like yours stay secure and help your employees have better security hygiene. So what's the #1 threat to your organization today? It's ransomware. What exactly is ransomware? It's malicious software that once it gets into your environment, it scrambles or encrypts all your files so you no longer have access to it. So how do the bad guys get ransomware into your network? The #1 way is through spear phishing. That's where the bad guy sends malicious emails to your employees, and if they click on a link, open up an attachment, it infects their computer with ransomware and scrambles all their files and even the files that are on network shares. So the threat of ransomware is actually evolving into what I call ransom cloud. And this is how the bad guy deploys ransomware into your cloud services like Office 365. So over here on the right, I have a Windows 10 laptop that's all up to date with the security patches, that's running the latest antivirus definitions. This is the typical laptop that might be in your environment. And we're also logged into Office 365, as you can see. And you can see that my emails are pretty much normal, what you might see. I'll go through a couple of them and we could actually read those emails. Over here, I have the Hacker Console. You see it's logged into an application called Sapo. This is the attacker in the cloud. And the attacker is going to be able to send a spear phishing attack to the victim, which is over here. And once the victim falls for the spear phishing attack, you'll see what the attacker could do with their cloud-based email. So, what are we going to do for the pretext, the con, the phish, is we're going to pretend to be a division of Microsoft that's deploying a new product called Anti-Spam Pro. Anti-Spam Pro will be a product that helps eliminate spam on their Office 365 account. So let me show you how it works. So we're going to pretend to be support at antispampro.com. We're going to be Anti-Spam Pro as the company name. The victim is going to be me. I'm going to type in my name as well. Right now that's been set. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see this. And then I'm going to click Create. And what Create does, it will send the spear phishing attack. Pay attention to the upper right-hand portion of the screen. I'm going to click Create. You'll see up here that it should say Sent in a moment. There it goes. It says the email has successfully been sent. That's the attacker sending the spear phishing email to my account over here. And as you can see, I just received an email from Anti-Spam Pro. Let's take a look and see what it says. So I'm going to be the victim here. I'm going to double click the email. It's going to have the Microsoft branding in it, as you can see. And basically it's a message that says, as a part of our effort to improve the experience of all our customers and to eliminate spam-based email, we're offering you to enable this service. And if you want the product, the only thing you have to do to enable it is click the following link in the email. Just click the link. So let's go ahead and do it. It's going to ask me to re-authenticate, which is normal. And then what it asks me to do, it asks for permissions, because Anti-Spam Pro needs permissions to eliminate spam. And what an ordinary user will take a look at it and says, yeah, this sounds normal, that they need to look at your email, they need to read your email, they need full access and this sort of thing. And as soon as the victim accepts those permissions, it's game over. And now we go to the attacker computer and we're going to refresh. And we're going to enable certain functionalities. So this web application is actually in the cloud. This victim could be any company located on any part of the planet. It doesn't matter. So what functions do we have here? If we look at the bottom here, what we could do is we could view the victim's contacts of this person here. I could view their emails. I could send email as them, and a few other things which I'll get to in a moment. So let's go ahead and view the emails. Let me zoom out. We'll view emails. What does view emails mean? What I'm doing is I'm viewing the emails of the victim that clicked on the spear phishing link, so I have complete access to their emails. What else I could do is I could actually send email as them. So I could send email to their colleagues, to their business partners, to their family or friends, and use the same spear phishing attack to attack them. But what's the most scariest of them all is Ransom Cloud. What Ransom Cloud's going to do is, in real time, as you'll see, infect the victim's emails, actually encrypt them so the user no longer has access. So let's go ahead and enable Ransom Cloud. I'm going to click Enable Ransom Cloud. And you see in real time it says infected, 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 infected. What the attacker is doing is actually encrypting all the emails in this account so the victim no longer has access. What we do see is the subject line. Why do the attackers leave the subject line? Is so the victim knows what emails they can't access. So if we take a look over here, we'll scroll up, and you see an email that says, your emails have been encrypted. If you ever get that type of message, you're going to have a very bad day. So let's take a look at the message. I'm going to double click the email, and I get this scary message. This is what exactly a ransomware attack looks like. We have a message that says your emails have been encrypted. It explains that your attachments have been encrypted as well, and you will no longer have access to it unless you send $300 of Bitcoin, which is a cryptocurrency, to this Bitcoin address, which belongs to the criminal, the bad guy. So unless you pay the ransom, you'll no longer have access to your email. A pretty scary thing. So what can you actually do about this type of attack? I strongly recommend that you consider a managed service provider. These are the individuals that are trained to help you remediate and recover from this attack without reinfecting your environment. What traits of a managed service provider should you look for? Well, one, that could make it a priority to educate your employees not to fall for phishing attacks. Phishing attacks are the #1 way an attacker is going to deploy ransom cloud into your environment. Also to deploy defensive technologies like EDRs, which are endpoint detection and response tools to detect malware such as ransomware. So these tools that are like antivirus software could hopefully stop the ransomware in its tracks even though the victim clicked on it. Your MSP should have really good support. So if you ever have a problem, they'll come by your side and help you recover. And most importantly, you want a managed service provider that can help you back up your information locally or in the cloud. And of course, you should consider using a SaaS protection service to, again, protect your organization from this type of threat. So there you go. Stay safe out there. And remember, you have to protect yourself against these types of attacks because they can have a substantial effect on your business.
Well, if you didn't find that terrifying, then you're all set for those Halloween haunted houses. As for me, every time I see a demonstration like that one, and I see a lot of them, I shudder. So let's take this apart a little bit. You come into your office one morning and you see what Kevin just showed us. All your messages have been encrypted. Now what? Well, if you have no backups for your Office 365 data, you're out of luck. I'll explain this in more detail, but it's very unlikely that Microsoft will be able to help you. Years of emails are gone for good, unless you're willing to pay the ransom. And in this example, it was $300. It could just as easily be $3,000 or $10,000. The city of Stratford, Ontario just had to pay $75,000 to reverse a ransomware attack. On the other hand, if you do have backups for your cloud data, a few mouse clicks will start your data restoring back to the way it was before the infection, and you can pick up where you left off. And all of this begs the question, what is the difference between cloud backup and cloud storage? And the short answer is that they're very different animals. Cloud storage is a technology like Dropbox, Microsoft SharePoint, Google Drive, iCloud, etc., where your files are physically stored in the cloud rather than on a hard drive in your office. Cloud backup is the process of creating backup copies of your data on a server in the cloud. The two are very different, but they're also definitely not mutually exclusive. So let me explain a little bit further. I think there's a popular understanding that once your data is in the cloud, in Dropbox or OneDrive or iCloud, that it is safe and protected. After all, isn't it Dropbox's responsibility to make sure your data is backed up? Well, unfortunately, the answer is what you see here. Yes, Microsoft, Google, Dropbox, and the others all do regular backups. But the primary purpose of those backups is to protect those companies if they have a failure somewhere in their infrastructure. For example, if one of their servers fails. And all of these providers do also offer some limited ability for you to restore missing data, but with significant limitations. And let me show you what I mean. So here's what Microsoft says. Now, Microsoft Office 365 is probably the most widely used cloud platform, but there are some surprising limitations. Specifically, there's a maximum of 30 days of email backup and a maximum of 93 days of SharePoint and OneDrive backup. And You see the little star there. The star there is because if you empty the recycle bin in OneDrive or SharePoint, then there's no recovery at all. And if you decide, oh, I need to go back to a previous version of a document, the only thing Microsoft can do is bring your entire OneDrive or SharePoint site back to that point in time. And that means that if you have other documents that were also changed, they will revert as well. Now, Google, surprisingly, is even more limited. There are only 30 days of access to deleted documents, and there is no way to recover a deleted email or document once your trash bin has been emptied. In the meantime, Dropbox is somewhat better. It allows you to retrieve up to 120 days of deleted files or revisions. And while that's better than many of the alternatives, it's still not enough for many businesses. And I need to mention that there are many other cloud-based services today, in addition to the 3 that I just mentioned. And that includes products like QuickBooks Online, Salesforce, MailChimp, Sage Accounting, Zoho, and numerous others. Make sure you understand the backup policies for each provider that you're using. And if you're not satisfied with them, find out if there are other backup options available. The upshot of all of this is pretty obvious. If you value your company data, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't, you should be backing up your data in the cloud. Fortunately, there is one very good piece of news, and that is that protecting your cloud files is both simple and inexpensive. This is a product that we are now introducing. It's called Dropsuite, and it's a one-step backup for your entire Office 365 environment. So that includes all of your mailboxes, contacts, and calendars. It also backs up cloud storage like OneDrive and SharePoint, and pretty much anything else that's part of Office 365, like, for example, Microsoft Teams. Now, what I've shown you so far is for Office 365, but if you're a Google customer, it's also available for you. Dropsuite includes unlimited storage space for your mailboxes and cloud files, and support for unlimited revision history. And here's what's even better. It's totally seamless and invisible. Dropsuite is a cloud service, which means that it connects directly to Office 365 or Google and performs backups in real time in the background. It has zero impact on your network or on performance, and it can be synced up with your user directory so that when you add users, they are automatically backed up. An installation is performed remotely with no disruption on your operations. Now, I know the obvious question is, what is this going to cost me? The answer actually is not very much. And until October 15th, we're even offering a 20% discount for the first year of service. So you see that the per mailbox price, the regular, is $4.75 per month. At the promotional price, it's $3.80 per month. So basically, if you had 20 mailboxes in your organization, you'd be looking at about $70 a month to do backup. And the question for you is your data worth $70 a month? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Now, what I've discussed so far is the best way to protect your data. But here's something else you might want to think about. And that is taking steps to prevent the risk of an infection in the first place. As Kevin Mitnick mentioned, the single deadliest source of ransomware infections is spear phishing attacks. But what if you could prevent those attacks from happening in the first place? Well, no solution is perfect, but here's one of the best ones that we've seen yet. It's called Proofpoint Essentials, and you can think of it as the Swiss Army knife of email security. It filters both your inbound and outbound emails to dramatically reduce the amount of spam and malware that arrives in your mailbox. There's also a 30-day email archive, so you can go back and retrieve missing messages. An emergency inbox in case your email service goes down, and an easy way of encrypting messages that contain confidential information. Also, this is one of the very few email filtering products we've seen that does something called URL rewriting. And what that does is to rewrite the links that are in emails. So if there's a link that you can click on in your email, it gets rewritten before the email is delivered to you. And what then happens is that if you click on that link, it is first scanned by Proofpoint before the website opens. And if Proofpoint determines that the website is on a list of malicious websites, or that it's trying to install software covertly, it will block access. And finally, like Dropsuite, setup is quick and seamless, and it automatically integrates with your email directory, so it needs minimal ongoing maintenance. One more thing I should add. If you're currently a Mail Protector user, there's no cause for concern. It is still a highly effective anti-spam solution, and we're continuing to support it. However, Proofpoint does have some additional features, which is why we have added it to our product portfolio. And if you're asking again, well, how much is this going to cost you? Cost me, pardon me. You'll see that the pricing is in fact very similar to Dropsuite. So for 20 users, you'd be looking at about $80 a month to protect your users and your mailboxes. So, what is the upshot of all of this? Very simply, it's this. A small investment in proper backup and security can protect your business from a very expensive data loss or breach. Look at it this way. A business with 20 users might pay somewhere around $150 per month for cloud backup and email security. But a ransomware breach could cost you tens of thousands of dollars to reverse. So ask yourself, which is the better deal? As I already mentioned, we're offering a 20% discount on both Dropsuite Backup and Proofpoint Essentials for the first year of service, but only if you act by next Tuesday, October 15th. So, what will an investment in these tools give you? More than anything else, it will give you confidence that your valuable business data is safe no matter what happens. And since businesses are more and more dependent on their information infrastructure, that kind of safety is key to achieving peace of mind and letting you focus on growing your business. So if you're ready to go ahead, please email Kate. Her address is on the slide, or give us a call, or just post your request in the chat, and we can get the ball rolling for you right away. Thank you everyone for your time today, and now I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay, first question, why do we need both Dropsuite and Proofpoint? What is the difference? Okay, let me see what I can do to explain that. Dropsuite is a backup solution. In other words, it creates backup copies of your data in the cloud. So if you're a user of Office 365, all of your mailboxes and cloud files are backed up. Proofpoint is an email filtering solution. It scans your emails coming in and out and ensures that it blocks anything that contains a virus load or an attempt to hijack your computer. They are complementary products, but they do different things. Other questions? Can you please compare Proofpoint versus Mail Protector? Basically, the major difference between the two of them is that Proofpoint includes URL rewriting. So that in addition to the inbound and outbound filtering and the other capabilities which Mail Protector also has, Proofpoint has this ability to rewrite the links that come in messages so that before you are transferred to a website, when you click on that link, before you are transferred to the link, it scans that website, checks it on against blacklists, and will block access if it determines that it's a malicious link. I hope I answered that question. Here's another question. We just purchased something that is supposed to take images of our server constantly. Is that not sufficient? Well, I think that it's important to understand that what we're talking about today is data that's in the cloud. So if you have a backup appliance, like for example, a Datto, that will absolutely protect any and all data that's on your servers. But if your data is not on your servers, for example, your email, a backup appliance cannot provide that level of protection because the data is not physically in your environment. Any other questions? Oh, here's one. How easy is it to recover my data if it's accidentally deleted or corrupted in some way? How fast can I be back up and accessing my files and emails if they're corrupted? Okay, well, there's sort of two different questions. The first one is how easy is it to recover potentially an individual file? And the answer is basically all you have to do is log into the Dropsuite portal and set a specific date. You can then find messages from that date and recover them. If your entire mailbox has become corrupt, it's a similar process. However, the time to restore it will really depend on how big your mailbox is, because that data has to be transferred through the cloud from the Dropsuite service center, from their data center to the Microsoft data center, and that's all dependent on the speed of those connections. I would say, if you've got a typical mailbox of 1 to 2 gigabytes, you're probably looking at maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, if we decide to use Dropsuite, how often is the data backed up? Can you restore individual files? The answer is that your data is backed up continuously. So as messages come in and go out, they are backed up. And can you restore individual files? Absolutely. Right down to individual messages. Another question, how secure are these cloud backup providers? Okay, so basically the story is that they have data centers located around the world, including in Canada, and those data centers are redundant so that if one fails, it will fail over to another one. All of those data centers, and I've been in some of them, all of those data centers have biometric access controls, so unless you have somebody's thumbprint, you can't get it. You can't even get in the front door. You can't get into the elevators. The individual rooms where the equipment is stored are locked. There's a series of access controls, and as I say, the data centers themselves are redundant. Another question, what happens if someone deletes an email and we find out before the end of the 30-day retention period? Well, if we're talking about Office 365, Office 365 is based on Microsoft Exchange, and Microsoft Exchange has the ability, or actually keeps a sort of a deleted items pool where that is purged every 30 days. So what you'd have to do in that particular situation is contact your managed services provider or IT provider, have them contact Microsoft or their cloud services provider, and they would arrange for access to that 30-day retention pool. It's a multi-stage process, but you can certainly restore the files. Any other questions? Oh, can WebRoot protect against malware sites if I click the link from the email? WebRoot does provide some level of protection at this level. It doesn't specifically rewrite the URLs. What it does do is it has a list of known malicious websites, and it will block those. However, hackers have a tendency to move their websites or their target sites from one IP to another, so keeping up with it is sometimes not a winning battle. I guess the short answer is WebRoot provides some level of protection. This provides an additional level. Okay, another question. Is this solution automated or manual? How does your team know it's really working? The solution is totally automated, if we're talking about Dropsuite. I mean, they're both totally automated, but I see the context of the question suggests it's about Dropsuite. Dropsuite's totally automated. It performs backups on the fly in the background. Our policy as a managed service provider is that for all of our customers, we check their backups on a regular basis to make sure they are working. The frequency of that really depends on the plan you're on, but as I said near the beginning of the presentation, our highest priority as an IT provider is protecting our clients' data, and making sure that backups are running is a key part of that. Thank you everybody for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope you found this useful, and I hope you'll take us up on our offer. Please get in touch with us by next Tuesday. And please watch for future webinars where we will cover other topics of interest, we hope, to all of you. Thank you so much again, and have a great day.